I think one of the biggest reasons that people fear their quote unquote rock bottom moment is because most of us don't know how to get out of it, meaning we don't trust ourselves to handle hard problems. Like we don't think we're capable of doing hard things. And so we avoid anything that could be difficult because we don't trust ourselves.
Mm. Not only that, but I know a lot of people have this giant belief that it's not going to happen to them. And when it comes to rock bottom moments, let me tell you something. It's not a matter of if you're going to hit rock bottom. It's a matter of when. And are you prepared to handle it?
Hey, everybody, it's Bianca.
Welcome back, Evolvers. It's Emilia.
Emilia and I were just shitting gigs before this. We're just dying laughing, doing all the funnies. And when it comes to leveraging rock bottom moments, I really want to start with this. I think one of the best ways to help yourself feel safe enough to handle them when they happen is by having really good people in your corner. Like, you have been through it with me. through Emilia's like, yeah. Through probably too many rock bottom moments, and I know without a shadow of a doubt that I wouldn't have been able to have gotten through it if it hadn't been for our relationship and for everything that we were building at the time. And it wasn't just a matter of having you there. That obviously was a huge component of it, but it was the way that you helped me build trust and safety within me that I could handle hard things. And to the intro, that not for nothing, I think I botched it, but whatever. The cold open that we were doing, I think one of the biggest reasons that a lot of people are really scared of quote unquote rock bottom moments, meaning they won't allow themselves to make any sort of change, do anything different, make any alterations in their lives because they're terrified of getting to that moment and having that feeling within themselves that, God forbid, if anything were to happen, I wouldn't know how to handle it. Like, I don't trust myself to do hard things. Kind of to the conversation that we had in the last episode.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll leave it at that. What are your thoughts?
What
are your thinks?
It's good.
Your thinky thinks.
It's thick. It's raw. It's real. I love it.
Is it thick with a C or thick with a Q?
I think, Q, exactly. I was thinking a
Thick.
Q, not a K. I love it. So yeah, I'm right there with you. I don't think enough of us leverage rock bottom moments. I think we just honestly avoid it. Bianca's got the giggles.
We're going off the rails.
Off the rails. Oh, let's get back on. So when it comes to the rock bottom, though, like I said, I think I'm right there with you, B. It's so many people, and understandably, like, granted, there's been a lot of people that you can look at their rock bottoms, and it is tragic what happens at rock bottom. You know, the first person that comes to mind, forgetting the actor's name, but it came down to suicide in their rock bottom. Not
Heath
Dr.
Ledger?
Dolittle. No. Oh my God, he's so famous, and he was
Robin
such a
Williams?
sweetheart. Robin Williams, thank you. Yeah.
Robin Williams is also on drugs his entire career and was like an alcoholic.
For sure. But here's the thing: rock bottom doesn't have just like one place, and I think that's where a lot of people think rock bottom happens, at this one macro moment in your life. And while all of us have them, our rock bottom starts actually really small. And I think it's because we avoid and don't leverage those rock bottom moments that happen in different periods, different chapters, different seasons of our lives. And we don't know how to cope with adaptively or in a way that helps us function to be a more wholehearted version of ourselves. I think that those start to catalyze as moments that could be meaningful, that we take lessons out of, extrapolating the gold of insight, really applying a growth mindset and or leaning on people and borrowing their belief to climb your way out of it. And I think it's because we don't leverage those moments or learn how to leverage those moments, and maybe we don't have anyone there to teach us, that when we do hit a big ass rock bottom moment in our lives, that it destroys us, and we go through such drastic measures to alleviate any pain and suffering that we do experience when we're in the darkest depths of our lives. And I think that that's the travesty. It's not necessarily it happening to us, because like I said at the very beginning, it's not a matter of if it's going to happen to you. It's more so a matter of when, if we're speaking probabilities, right? Everyone has a rock bottom moment that they can refer to. Not everyone handles it the same. And it's those people who handle those rock bottom moments who know that these are coming. It's a matter of probability. That is life. The only thing in life is suffering. And it's how you change, how you evolve, how you extrapolate the gold of insight, and how you lean on your people and do things differently to be able to welcome that and stare that in the face and say, hey, good friend, I've missed you. Because I think that when we look at those smaller rock bottom moments, it's that compounding over time of how we responded to that really allows us to become a more wholehearted, more evolved, more intricate version of ourselves. And I think when we think about people that really leave an impact on us, it's not that they were running away from their rock bottom moments. It's how they embrace them that really made the big difference.
It's delusional to believe that suffering is never going to happen to you. Suffering is a part of the human condition. But to what you said, it's how you react and respond to it on the way there. Meaning, are you making intelligent choices throughout your life on the day-to-day? And then if you're not, what do you do when tragedy happens? And I was on a call with a client earlier. It blew my mind. Oh my God, the mental gymnastics that this girl is going through to try to... She's basically gaslighting herself. So this client has a really horrific trauma history from a super young age. And I mean, her family did crazy shit to her, and she just had horrible things happen to her. And she's living on her own up here in Mass for the first time, learning how to be away from her family. And unfortunately, she was living with someone temporarily, and an altercation happened. They kicked her out. Now she's homeless. She is embracing this so badly that she's now starting to distort herself into believing that she's just like an animal and doesn't need permanent housing in order to be safe, because animals don't have a permanent home and they're fine, and humans are animals, and so they don't need permanent shelter, and neither do I. And I was like,
whoa.
I was like, you're basically like manipulating yourself, right? And she's like, yeah, I know, but it's the only way that I can survive. And honestly, I think I'm fine with it. And I was like, Jesus.
Whoa.
Now, I don't think that's adaptive at all. But that is the compound effect of years and years and years and years and years of, number one, horrible things happening to you, but then number two, you in kind making terrible choices. Now, obviously not everybody gets to that point. We all have our own crises and suffering and challenges that are going to happen to us. But the way that you make sure you don't get to a rock bottom like that is through the choices that you make on the day-to-day. It's who you surround yourself with. It's whether or not you ask for help. It's humility. It's vulnerability. It's being willing to learn and grow. I mean, you and I still suffer. You and I have challenges and difficulties, but it's nothing like it used to be. Our suffering is higher quality suffering now because of all the choices that we've made. And we got ourselves to this point. And I know someone might listen to an episode like this and it's like, okay, yeah, good for you. Easy for you, but you don't know my situation. You don't know what I'm going through. You don't know how bad it is for me. Valid, fair, and in no way are we trying to take that away from you. But what we are saying is we work with people every single day. I mean, I see 9 clients a day.
Yeah.
Most people are suffering through the same things. It might look different, but most people are suffering with the same core themes. And I've seen people go from the depths of frickin' hell to thriving. It is possible if you follow the formula. If you follow the, not for nothing, if you follow like the advice that we give on this show, like really prioritizing your mental health, going to therapy, getting a good coach, surrounding yourself with really good people and not being afraid to look in the frickin' mirror. If you do that consistently enough, you won't have these crazy rock bottom moments. You will have suffering, you'll have challenge. Welcome to being a human. But you'll handle them better and they'll be better quality problems. Like, I have a really high quality problem of trying to furnish this apartment. That is a high quality problem. It's like, what TV stand do I want? Like that's a high quality problem. That was a horrible example, but you know what I mean.
It's
like,
true. It's true. Yeah.
Or like your high quality problem this morning of dropping your milkshake all over the floor. Now your house smells like shit.
I didn't drop it. I failed to realize it didn't have a bottom. So when I picked it up, everything that was in it just went out all over the kitchen. Yeah. High quality issues. Yeah. Something that you said earlier that I feel compelled to share. I was on a session just before we got into this with a client, and you know, I will keep it anonymous, but one of the challenges that she is edging herself upon, it's kind of like when you ride a wave and you're like right there, right before you really dip into that wave, right? You can either hold back and let that wave roll, or you can like jump right there. Okay, we're gonna laugh that one out.
That's a sexual term. That's why I'm laughing.
I do know. I'm not talking about sexual edging. I'm talking about she is
what the hell are you talking
nudging
about?
herself to the edge of something that is not sexual. But I'm glad that we all just went there together. But and on a serious note, she is bringing herself to an edge of a decision or a decision-making point to where she is slipping back into old tendencies, or she was on the edge of slipping back to an old tendency, which was putting I can't even take this seriously. It's brutal. All right.
Listen, I'm usually not a child who laughs at sex jokes, but I'm laughing because I didn't know if you knew that's what you were saying. And I'm like, what the hell is going on?
I know the implications of people's minds, yes. And if you got distracted because, you know, that's where
I'm a
your mind's
child,
at,
that's
no
fine.
judgment. It's all good. It's all good. But she was on the edge of a decision, all right? So she's, we're sitting on the fence. How about that? I don't know if I just did myself any better or worse. So
this episode is not helping you to evolve your consciousness.
Oh, God. Poor listeners.
Oh, God.
Oh.
When you're on a journey of self-discovery or self-rediscovery, it's very important to have a support system in place. And that's where a group like Evolve comes in with their acceptance and advice and different people from different walks of life who can offer different perspectives for you to help you find your self-worth and aid in your journey of wellness. It's important and essential.
Okay, well,
Anyways,
she's at a point in her life where
she's at a crossroads. She's trying to make a decision.
Not on a fence, not edging, but she's trying to make a decision in her life where essentially, I'm actually going to share this now. She's essentially at a crossroads where she has an option to choose everyone else, like her someone very important in her life is on their way to hitting rock bottom, another rock bottom. And she, as someone who loves and cares about this person, she is at a crossroads of whether or not to take that on her own accord as her responsibility to try to prevent that rock bottom from happening. And it's out of fear of a past rock bottom that person had gone through that just so happened to have suicidal ideation and suicidal attempts, failed suicidal attempts. But she's in a moment where she can either take on the responsibility and say, because I love and I care about this person, I'm going to put her problems that she's not addressing and that she's actively avoiding through alcohol and through substance abuse and XYZ, right? I'm going to take that and put it on my back, or I'm going to choose to instead be that hero for that person, which takes away their ability to learn how to work through the impending quote unquote doom. I'm actually going to take more of a guide approach and say, well, I understand that there's some behaviors that are happening right now and you're pointed towards a rock bottom and I really love and I care about you and I don't want to see that happening. However, I'm not going to, that's what you're headed towards. That's not my responsibility. That's not my journey. That's your journey. And I, in my love for you, will be right here and help guide you through to try to navigate this rock bottom that you're headed towards as best as I can. But I'm not going to do so at the expense of myself and you pulling me down to a rock bottom that I have learned how to navigate away from. I have learned how to make better decisions to not get myself in because I've had my own rock bottoms. And I asked her, I said, I'm going to call her Stacy. I said, Stacy, this person that you really love, that you really care about, that's headed towards her own rock bottom, or your perception of rock bottom, what is it that ultimately has gotten her there? And she was thinking, and I'm like, ultimately it boils down to our decisions, right? We can make good decisions. We can make bad decisions. We can make helpful, hurtful decisions, and we can make mistakes. And then we can learn from those, and everyone makes mistakes. Everyone makes a bad decision here or there, but it's the compound effect of poor decisions, low thought out, low conscientious decisions about your life that ultimately it's not just mistakes. When you make mistake more than once, it's not a mistake. It's not a mistake. You tried, but you didn't extrapolate the wisdom, the core knowledge, the growth out of that. Instead, you just are making a poor decision again and again. And it's that compounding over time that ultimately leads one to a rock bottom moment, right? Because then at that point, it's not a whisper. It's not a shout. It's not a roar. It's a screaming in your face. This is the lesson that you need to learn because you've been ignoring it this whole time when it was a whisper, when it was a shout, when it was a roar. And so now it's here and you can't avoid it, right? And she goes, that's so true. Like that was for me as well. I made, some mistakes and then I got caught in shame and then I made poor decisions and I didn't really change my course of action. And it was because of that I really hit rock bottom. Like exactly. Not everyone comes out of this life unscathed. Everyone has their own rock bottom. And I said, 0 to 10, right? You've heard that quote, right? Like who are the 5 people that you spend the most time with? And she's like, yeah. I go, so I want you to name each one of those 5 people. And she named each one of those 5 people that this friend that she cares about deeply has and spends the most time with. This client of mine was one of them, of the 5. And I said, 0 to 10, this first person, let's call him Jake. How great are Ben's decisions? Like if 10 out of 10 is he's always making the best decisions always, and he's learned from his mistakes and he just continues to make great decisions. 0 to 10, where's his decision making? She's like a 3. Then we go through each person, right? We go through each person. The next person was a -2 out of 10. The next person after that, right, was all of them below 5, except for my client. And so we did the math. We go out of those 5. What is the summation? What is the average of her decision-making capabilities, which is the barrier that she's facing, right? Because we not only are the sum average of the 5 people that we spend the most time with, but our consciousness, our decision-making paradigm absorbs those who we spend time and are directly influenced by, which is usually the people that we spend the most time with, right? And she looks at the math, and I shared, out of a 10, this person that you deeply care about, who you see is headed towards rock bottom, she's only capable of a 2.6 out of 10 decision-making paradigm. What does that mean to you? And she looked at it for the first time, I think, with her, she put herself at a 6 out of 10, which in comparison to this person, I think that was distorted, but either way, right? That's a big delta, meaning that if let's just kind of think of a train analogy. If everyone is connected, right? All of those 5 people, and of those 5 people, it's my client who is making the best decisions. And you see someone who makes a 2.6 out of 10 decision, and that's their way of life. She's headed down. Your train is connected to hers. What decisions are you going to make right now based on this awareness? Because you know she's headed to rock bottom, and you know that you don't have to. And she had a hard time with that, especially because when we've been through our own rock bottom and we've taken lessons out of that, of course we're going to want to go into hero mode. And she said, I am not going to take that responsibility of preventing her from hitting rock bottom, because the lesson here was that she's not going to learn how to leverage how her rock bottom moments actually can define her if she takes a growth mindset approach. And I was so proud of her. I'm like, heck yes, that's right. But not all of us do that. Not all of us realize what I just went through. Not all of us have a coach in their corner who can help them understand how decision-making paradigms impact us. And most importantly, through this, how we can leverage the people around us, the resources that we have, the thinking patterns of those that we love and care about, to leverage those rock bottom moments, and how we can even see how when someone's pointed that direction, what lessons of insights can we take away from that?
Your life and the outcomes of your life aren't determined by what happened to you, but by what you do with what happens to you. So it's your responses.
Yeah.
The people who learn how to leverage their rock bottom moments, they're taking the lessons from it. They're doing basically like an experience review. Here's what happened. Here's what I did. Here's how this turned out the way that it did. Here's how I'm going to respond to it. If you're surrounded, not for nothing, if you're surrounded by idiots all the time, you're not going to be able to do that. And that was my life. That's why I had so many rock bottom moments so many times. I was surrounded by people who were not helping me become the greatest version of myself. And my life suffered because of it until I started to change that. So to wrap up and to close this episode, if you want a better quality life, you have to learn how to handle hard better. And if you do that, you will be able to handle these quote unquote rock bottom moments and make them make your life better. You make them make your life more meaningful. Like a couple of years ago, I was at my absolute lowest. I had just gotten out of a terrible relationship. I had nowhere to go. Emilia's friend luckily let me stay in her attic for like a couple of weeks. It was wild. I never even met this person, basically living out of my car. I had nothing going for me and nowhere to go. And it was like, okay, I can either go back home and ruin my life, or I can learn from what the hell happened and make sure this never happens to me again. Yeah. And I did that. And my life is all the better for it.
One of the things that I'm going to say in closing, and B, I'm so proud of you for that, because I remember there was a moment that in the chaos of what you had been going through and what had happened to you and how you were trying to navigate throughout that, right? It's so easy to go and feel like you're drowning because you're so dysregulated, right? You're thrown off. You're not in like the best place to necessarily extrapolate insight. And so you got to regulate through that to be able to get your brain back online, to really pull those lessons from that, right? That's what the growth mindset is, being able to learn how to regulate your central nervous system so that you can take a breather for a hot second and not just make impulsive decisions that lead you closer to rock bottom. And you did that. You leaned on me and many times, and you lean on the people that were able to regulate you and extend their nervous systems to you to be like, B, take a minute. Let's think about what this one decision would do for the long-term implications of your life. And so if anyone's listening to this episode and recognizes that, shoot, I recognize that maybe I'm headed towards rock bottom. I know someone that's headed towards rock bottom, and you just want a general sense of where your nervous system is at. In the description of the podcast episode that we have here, B, I'm going to have our listeners go to the landing page for a nervous system reset toolkit, because I think one of the things that I found for clients is that when they don't know where their nervous system is at and how well regulated they can be, as they're making decisions, they can't necessarily tell whether they're headed towards rock bottom. And if they are, what to do about that, because even just the fear of headed towards rock bottom gets them even more dysregulated. And so in that link that we're going to put in the show notes, that's going to take you to a landing page to get a nervous system toolkit reset, because resetting your nervous system when you're in situations like that, whether you're a bystander or you're in that moment, is going to be so critical so that you can start to reset and make better decisions for yourself. And my goodness, if I had you and I, when I was headed towards those impending rock bottom moments and had the resources that Evolve extends, I mean, I wouldn't go back and change it, but I certainly would make better decisions, and I would be able to pull that nervous system back online such that I would be able to extrapolate far more insights that were more meaningful in my life. So click the link in the show notes for that. And for our listeners, totally free. It's going to be something that will help you kind of gauge where you're at and then take away some tangible insights from that. So in closing, my episode suggestion is going to be 319. It's a motivation of Monday. This is actually going a little more esoteric, more existentialism around the meaning of life. I actually do think it's, when you hit rock bottom, there are some amazing moments that when you go existential, like ask yourself, what is the meaning of my life and life in general, right? I do think that there's some really phenomenal inner conversations you can have with yourself when you hit rock bottom, when you're on your way to rock bottom, or when you're observing someone who's hitting or on their way to rock bottom. And I think that the gold of insight, just can multiply when you find those. So B, in closing, an episode suggestion.
I completely agree. 322, why it's scary to have hope. Your life is only going to be as good as your ability to handle difficult problems. You do that through literally everything we talk about in this show. We don't talk about the things that we talk about because we want to hear our own voices. We talk about what works and what the data shows and what we've done. So click the link for that resource. I'm sure it's going to be amazing. And please reach out. We cannot wait to hear from you. Bye, everybody.